either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie.
It's pretty good.
Well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
You sorry? You waste our film.
It's so bad. It's that time of the year when we're making lists. We always love to make lists.
We do.
Especially this time of year. The best of everything for the end of the year. And, you know, when you're talking to us, that means the best of the movies for 2024. And it was a good year.
It was.
Lots of different things to talk about. Lots of big swings. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
A couple of comebacks. But lots of good stuff. And it's always tough to narrow it down. But we've got our top 10 and many more that we liked as well. So we'll try to cover them all, as many as we can. Welcome into the Screening Room Podcast. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from maddwolf.com. That's MADDWOLF. And this podcast now available on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I know some people have been checking in on YouTube and finding us. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I don't know why it took so long.
Lazy.
Well, and then we were trying to do a video, and then speaking of lazy, I just admitted it's too much work. So we're just going to have the audio portion up there. But that works too.
Does.
And a lot of people have been had some very complimentary things to say. So we thank you. We'll dive in before we get to the top 10 to discuss in a little more in depth. Let's just run down a bunch of movies that we liked this year that didn't quite make the top 10. What do you got over there?
Yeah, in no particular order. The Brutalist, September 5th, Inside Out 2, Wild Robot, Memoir of a Snail.
Also, Juror number 2, I saw the TV Glow. Dune 2, Amelia Perez, and My Old Ass.
Also, Nickel Boys, The Bike Riders, Snack Shack, Kneecap, and Civil War.
Baby Girl, The Order, Hitman, Flow, and a couple of good documentaries, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn and Ernest Cole, Lost and Found. So a bunch of good stuff. And, you know, if we had 5 hours, we could talk about them all. You got another 5?
Actually, you know what? Let me give you a couple of others that I
Okay.
think we wanted to just sort of get in there.
Yeah.
Real Pain,
Yeah.
Conclave,
Yeah.
Fire Inside, Saturday Night, and Blitz.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
all those good. So it was tough.
It was.
It's tough. You know, the old saying in literary terms, kill your darlings. We had to cross some off the
We
list. And
did.
just like Santa, check our list twice, 3 times. In fact, we just came from a little dinner meeting where we had to hash out and leave somebody off this list that
That's
we really
right.
didn't want to.
But we did enjoy the Chipotle.
We did enjoy the Chipotle, as always. Get it down to 10, which was tough. But we're going to kick it off with one of the biggest hits of the year. Elphaba, a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Galinda, a popular girl, become friends at Shiz University in the land of Oz. It is Wicked.
I am Oz, the great and powerful.
Something bad is happening in Oz.
The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
Tell them how I'm defying gravity.
You have no real power.
That's why I need you. Bring her to me.
This is so much bigger than us.
I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
This was a big one because if you have listened to this podcast, you know that of the two of us, I like musicals and you do not.
No, and in particular, because we have seen this stage show a number
Yeah.
of times, you like this musical.
I do.
And I do not. And yet, somehow, magically, I very, very much enjoyed this film.
Yeah, and it's become an incredible blockbuster, and I think for good reason, because director John M. Chu, which I remember when they announced him as the director, I felt good about it because I had just seen him do In the Heights.
Yep.
And he had come from Crazy Rich Asians
Yep.
and some other films, and you didn't, well, can
he do a musical?
Can he do a musical? Because, believe me, just because you're a good director, we've seen, does not mean you can stage a musical well, but boy, he does. And the way that first of all, the casting is perfect.
Yeah, it is.
Right down the line. Cynthia Erivo, I'm fully expecting an Academy Award nomination there. Then Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh, on and on and on. The casting is really on point. The vocal performances are fantastic.
And they did them live.
They did them
Right?
live.
They pulled a Les
Man.
Mis, and it was such a great decision.
Man, such a great decision. And it's so beautifully realized, not only the set pieces of the musical numbers and the choreography, but then once they get to Emerald City, it really kicks up a notch. The colors pop more,
Yeah.
and it's just more eye-popping. And it, in terms of a part one, because I think most
Yeah.
everybody knows by now, this is a part one, it's really satisfying and leaves you wanting more, of course, but also glad with what you just saw.
Yes.
Because anybody that's familiar with the stage show knew where it was going to end, how it was going to end for part one, and that's exactly where it ends. But they do it, man. They draw it out so well. Not only that number, Defying Gravity, but to make it worthy of two films, they had to flesh out the narrative more
Yeah.
as well. And I think they do a good job of that.
Oh, I do too. I think they draw on a lot more of the political underpinnings that made the novel so very rich. And for me, it meant the world to the storytelling. It's just not so superficial.
Of the two choices, usually I would lean toward, brevity. Instead of making
For
it
sure.
two parts, cut, as we just said, kill your darlings, cut, and make it maybe one long 3-hour movie. But at least for this part one here, gives me confidence that they chose wisely.
Yep.
We'll see how the second part, that's now titled For Good, comes out next year. But this one is really, really well realized. And it had a lot riding on it because the musical is so well loved.
Yes.
So many fans of this. And I have not run into too many people, very few, that were dissatisfied, especially the people that were looking forward to it the most.
Yeah,
It is
agreed.
a big crowd pleaser, and I think really, really well done. And comes in at number 10 on our list of best of the year, and that is Wicked. In at number 9 is a drama that follows the lives of the Charles family as they deal with themes of family, legacy, and more in deciding what to do with an heirloom, the family piano. It's the piano lesson.
Sometimes you be in trouble. They might be around to help you. Tell your mama to tell you about that piano. Ask her how them pictures got on there. You feel that? That's your family. That's your blood.
Speaking of family affair,
Yeah. Yeah, boy. This is an adaptation of another August Wilson work, Pulitzer Prize winner, and a number of his works have been adapted, and I think this is one of the most successful. And it's really it's a Washington labor of love, family labor of love.
yeah, it's
because-
directed by Malcolm Washington.
Washington, yeah.
Denzel Washington is a producer.
Yep.
John David Washington is a star. There's another sister who's a producer.
Yeah, and
his wife
His
has a
wife
small
has
part, a
small
cameo.
they're
Yeah,
all
everybody's in it.
all over the place, and it's an incredible ensemble, one of the best ensembles of the year. And I think that's maybe one of the things I think about when I think about this year in movies. Some great ensembles,
Yes.
really great. And this one is right up there near the top, led by John David Washington. I think as good as he's ever been.
Agreed. I
He's
totally agree.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
But also Danielle Deadwyler, one of our faves.
Yes,
She's fantastic.
she is magnificent. I would not be surprised to see her get an Oscar
I hope
nomination
so.
out of this.
I
Yeah,
hope
me
so.
too.
Not only because she deserves it, but because she got robbed in a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, not getting nominated for Till.
Yes.
My Lord, that was a crime. But yeah, she's great. Samuel L. Jackson.
He's so good.
Yeah,
Samuel
he's
L. Jackson
so
is so
good.
good. It's understated
Yes.
and just wonderful.
Corey Hawkins, Michael Potts, goes on and on and on. But really, Danielle Deadwyler it's a supporting role in terms of time on screen.
Right.
But man, she's the soul of
She
this
is,
movie.
yeah, she anchors
because
it.
John David Washington's character comes to visit her with the hopes of selling that piano to give him enough money, paired with some money he's going to get by selling a truckload of watermelons with his friend, to buy some land back home in Mississippi.
Because he's
And-
tired of working on other people's land. He
Exactly.
wants to own land like his father once
yes,
did.
but there's a reason that Danielle Deadwyler, Bernice, does not want to give up that piano.
Yeah.
And we see that in flashbacks. The flashbacks are really, really well well ingrained into
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
There's also
They're
music in the
spooky.
story. Yeah, they are spooky.
And that's the thing too that I was very surprised by. This is a full-on ghost story.
Yeah.
It's not just like you might expect it to be metaphorical. I mean, this is a full-on ghost story, which I did not expect
I
and
didn't either.
loved.
I didn't either because I had not read this story. Really
No,
was
I'd not
that-
seen the play either.
Not that familiar with it, right? But I love that too.
Yeah.
and it works. The flashbacks work, and the ensemble just takes this prose,
Mm-hmm.
August Wilson, my lord, and just really brings it to life.
Yep, yep.
It's so well realized, and I think one of, if not the best, adaptation. Because the ones we've seen, like Fences,
Yeah.
speaking of
Brilliant,
Denzel
yeah.
Washington, no slouch there. But this one, this is a Netflix movie, so available anytime. But it also had a limited theater release. I think that's how Netflix is doing a lot of these
Yeah.
right now, especially the awards, the awards favorites,
Yes.
which is smart. But this was definitely a good one. Number 9 on our list, best of the year, The Piano Lesson. In at number 8, our favorite documentary of the year, an intimate portrayal of friendship, transition, and America. Will Ferrell and his close friend of 30 years decide to go on a cross-country road trip to explore a new chapter in their relationship. It's called Will and Harper.
Hi there. I'm Will Ferrell, one of the greatest actors in the world. A long time ago, back when I was at Saturday Night Live, I met a guy who was hired as a writer the same week I was hired. He wrote a bunch of sketches for me and eventually became the head writer of SNL. And over the years, he became one of my closest friends. And then one day, I got this email. Hey, Will, something I need you to know. I'll be transitioning to live as a woman.
I don't doubt that Will is my friend, but I'm not Andrew Steele anymore.
It was just, whoa.
I love this country so much, I just don't know if it loves me back right now.
Harper, would you want to do a road trip as this new version of yourself and at the same time figure out what this all means to us?
Another Netflix movie that is also voted the movie that made me cry most often. It was neck and neck with The Wild Robot. I'll tell you what.
yeah.
Which I saw those two movies back to back, and it was a mini Kleenex day for me.
It's so touching, and it's another reason why we love Will Ferrell.
We sure do.
We love him because he's funny. We both think he's hilarious.
Yes.
But man, he's so human and dear in this movie as he stands by his friend of 30 years, Harper Steele, as the synopsis says, they travel across the country, and Harper has just transitioned to a woman.
Yep. And they knew each other. Harper Steele was an SNL writer for many years. And as they let you know during part of this is that really the reason that Will Ferrell got any parts. None of the other writers knew what to do with
clicked.
them.
Yeah, they just clicked.
And they've just stuck it out this whole time as just being buddies all this time. But the other thing that's fascinating is that one of the things that Harper did before transitioning was he would just drive across country and stop off in these just dives, just dive bars and talk to people that he didn't know. And now that's one of the things that they want to explore together is that she will go in by herself and it's harrowing.
Yeah.
It's frightening. And one of the things I love about it, because it's very, in many ways, lighthearted, it's very funny, it's very human, but it's also just a terrifying, realistic look at the reality of America today.
Yeah, because Harper, when they go in to just say this random bar, when you have Will Ferrell there, that's quite a buffer.
Yeah.
And he knows that.
He does, and he really works it, and it's so lovely.
Yeah, and it's poignant, and it's funny, and it also has a song. They're able to work in this original song, and I really hope it gets nominated for Best Original Song, because at the beginning, they lean on their friend Kristen Wiig to write them a song. And of course, by the end, we get that song.
Yeah, we
and
do.
It's great.
It's so good.
So we'll see whether that gets the recognition it deserves, and hopefully the movie will too.
Yeah, I hope it
Because-
gets nominated for Best Documentary.
For
I
Best
really do.
Documentary, yes, it is so dear, and it's intimate between the friendship of these two people, but yet it's universal in what it says about the country, and what people are capable of, good and bad.
Yeah.
And then it makes you realize, like we just alluded to, the people that don't have a very famous, very tall actor as a buffer to go through
Yeah.
life. how tough that could be.
Yeah, but I think one of my favorite lines in any movie I saw this year is, people say like, "Are you sorry?" Like now that you realize how much hatred, are you sorry you did it? And she was like, I've never been happier in my whole life. Just the joy of being able to be who she really is. She thought about killing herself all the time, her whole life before she did this.
Yeah.
And now she wouldn't even consider it. It's such a life affirming film.
Yeah. And hopefully get through to people that, maybe are on the fence about understanding where these people come from. And just look here. Just look here. And hopefully
it can just be really inspirational to people who are trying to make that transition themselves.
Yeah. And I love that song. So at number 8 on our list of the top 10 of the year, it is Will and Harper on Netflix. Well, let's take a big 180 for movie number 7 on our list. This is a fading celebrity taking a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself in The Substance.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect.
Pretty girls should always smile.
Oh man, what a movie this was.
Ooh, what a ride. What a ride. This is 2 hours and 20 minutes, but boy, it keeps you riveted to what is going on. And it's a director that we like anyway. We're really looking forward to this because of her previous work.
Yeah, Coralie Fargo, and she's a French filmmaker, and her last film was called Revenge, and it is, it's a tough one as well, but so different from this one. This one is, it is such body horror. It's so uncomfortable. But it's also really very, very funny and profoundly feminist. And a lot of people have described it as a Cronenberg, like a feminist Cronenberg, which I don't think you could bill something that is more directly like in tune with me than that phrase.
It's a great comeback for Demi Moore.
Oh, she's great.
And that's sort of a thing, another theme that we have seen a little bit, if you really just count Demi Moore and then Pamela Anderson here at the end of the year. We both saw these two icons of pop culture come back here at the end of the year because Pamela Anderson stars in The Last Showgirl.
Yeah, very good.
I also enjoyed, and they both roles deal with the same themes of women reaching a certain age and then getting pushed away because they're not young and sexy anymore. And this one deals with it in quite a different way. Although I did enjoy The Last Showgirl. This one gets effing insane.
Yeah, it really does. It's so fun. It's so nasty. And, and it gets to the heart of the women are sort of trained to hate themselves. That's really what it's about, is that, they're, you to survive in this particular industry, you have to just go through these jump through these ridiculous hoops that men don't have to, so that men can judge you, so that they can determine your worth, and then you internalize it. And that's really what it's about. There are a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people say that the movie is about vanity, which is, in my estimation, an absolute misread of this film.
Absolute misread. And I think in a way that is a sort of sign that they're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because you're not making it so obvious. You think that it should be that obvious, but that sort of makes its point.
Yeah.
Because what it's really saying is not universally accepted, I guess. Not the polite way to look at it.
Yeah.
And this movie is not polite
at
all. It grabs you by the lapels and pulls you in. Even a character like Dennis Quaid.
Oh my God.
Which is so over the top, but that's okay because the movie is over the top.
Yeah.
And it's not vanity at all. And Margaret Qualley, we haven't even mentioned Margaret Qualley. She plays the better, quote unquote, better version of Elizabeth once Demi Moore takes this substance.
Sue.
Sue, that's right. It really is a statement that is taking no prisoners.
None.
And I'm glad it didn't, because you've got a director who's got a vision and is confident about it and is going to just put the pedal to the metal and go.
Yeah, I mean, and as the story goes, she was offered a lot of money from a different distributor to change the ending, and she went with Mubi instead because they did not ask her to change the ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, my God, that ending.
It's nuts. Yeah, and I know things have pictures, stills, video have worked their way out there. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, try to avoid that if you can, because then the shock will be there, and the shock is something that this movie really it works well.
Yeah,
is the shock value, and you'll never think of eating a shrimp cocktail the same way.
No,
again,
you won't. No, you won't.
But it is also as grotesque as it is. It's also funny.
It's very funny.
It's really darkly funny, and as much as body horror can be. But yeah, what a statement! Any time a director takes a big swing like this, and that is another theme, I think, of the year. We've seen many big swings this year. Some didn't work.
No.
I mean, I would say Megalopolis from Francis Ford Coppola was
Joker.
a big swing. Joker, Filet Dieu, big swing. Didn't care for really either of those. Amelia Perez was a big swing.
Kind of polarizing, that one.
Very polarizing. I enjoyed it more than most. Again, that's a musical, but it's how did John Waters describe Amelia Perez? The cartel Rocky Horror or something like that?
The Rocky Horror Cartel Show.
That's it. That is it. That was perfect. Leave it to John Waters. But yeah, I enjoyed that. Also, The Brutalist is a big swing from a director, Brady Corbett. And that one almost made this list. That is such a sprawling, almost a There Will Be Blood look at how immigrants shaped America and how America shaped immigrants and the relationship between overlords and labor. It's fascinating. It's 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And that's another big director statement.
Yes,
but
it is.
We've seen a lot of big swings.
Yeah.
Which I always appreciate.
Exactly. Bold filmmaking, even if it doesn't go well, bold
Right.
filmmaking is something to be respected.
Right. And when you have the money like Coppola did to say, I don't care, I'm going to put all my money into this, and a lot of people hated it, but he didn't care. So all right.
Okay.
You got the money, make your vision. So yeah, some big swings, some worked better than others, and we definitely thought this one worked. The Substance in at number 7. In at number 6, the story of an unknown 19-year-old Bob Dylan arriving in New York City with his guitar. He forges relationships with music icons of Greenwich Village on his meteoric rise, culminating in a groundbreaking performance that reverberates worldwide in a complete unknown.
I hear Bob is playing electric.
Not on our stage, he isn't.
They just want me singing Blowing in the Wind for the rest of my goddamn life.
Well, this is gonna piss some people off.
You came here with nothing but a guitar. You never talk about your family, your past.
People make up their past, Sylvie. They remember what they want. They forget the rest.
I want to know which side he's on.
I'm not sure they want to hear what I want to play, Johnny.
I want to hear it.
Turn it down! Play it loud.
Make some noise, BD.
I know you were cautiously optimistic about this movie because you are such a huge Dylan fan.
Big fan of Bob Dylan. Was cautiously optimistic, and I was happy to say it exceeded my expectations because I always thought Dylan is such an enigmatic presence that I've always thought, up to now anyway, the most successful treatments on film have been something like I'm Not There from Todd Haynes. Love that.
Loved it.
Love that. When you've got a persona like this, really stepping outside the box, and you can't do a walk the line type of treatment.
No.
Which, this is the same director,
right.
James Mangold, who did Walk the Line. It's not that Walk the Line was a bad movie. It wasn't. But it was just so
by the numbers.
So by the numbers. And just like Ray was, I think 1 year later, and that made it so spoofable for a movie like Dewey Cox, Walk Hard, and that really derailed those movies for a while because it was just here's what we do. they're born, they move up, and he tried to tell the entire life.
Yeah.
And this is much more successful because they zero in on just a 4-year period from when Dylan comes to New York, then becomes the new voice of a generation, the savior of folk music. And then in 1965, he went electric and turned Judas, as some would say, to the folk music scene and plugged in. And that's just the 4 years that this concentrates on. And it's led by Timothy Chalamet, who's just fantastic as Bob Dylan. He also does live singing. Everybody here does their live singing. And,
Crazy.
And playing.
Right.
So he learned how to play the guitar and sound pretty close to Dylan. Of course, Dylan has such a recognizable style, singing style. So he does his singing. He's right there. And the look, of course, he's got the skinny frame and that wild hair, and he's just he's just got it down, especially as the personality changes from confident newbie to someone who's just been, as he calls it, as he says in the film, been pulverized by fame.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, boom, you are the voice of a generation. And so while it also calls him to account of the way he treated people in his life, especially his girlfriend, played by Elle Fanning, and Joan Baez, played by Monica Barbaro, who also does her own singing and playing, very good. And Edward Norton, fantastic as Pete Seeger, the folk icon who served as Dylan's early mentor when he got to New York. So really, all those three relationships, you see Dylan taking and giving at his convenience, because he was just so singularly wrapped up in his own world of music. And that's another thing that the movie gets right in terms of seeing how these future classic songs came to be. Instead of just padding a soundtrack like, Bohemian Rhapsody did, it just shows Dylan as someone he's just bursting with song ideas 24/7, just constantly, at the expense of all else. So you see bits of these songs coming to fruition. Then when you look at how many songs the man has written in his life, you think, well, okay, this seems like it might be authentic. Maybe how he lives his life, just constantly walking around, writing down lyrics and thinking of songs. So it doesn't really forgive him, but at the same time lets you realize how this could affect a person.
Oh, yeah.
Just out of nowhere, you're 19 years old, and then you're a savior.
Yeah.
Whew, that's got to be tough.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So, but it then leads it up to this, as Dylan himself called it, the fiasco at Newport in 1965. And, longtime Dylan fans, like myself, there's a big anachronism in this movie that will stand out like a neon sign. But when you realize that Dylan himself gave the blessing to that, and then you can see how it works with what the movie is trying to say. So there are things in here that, it's not a documentary.
No.
They're going to make little changes here and there.
Well, and as the film points out, he made shit up too.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why the title works so well, because not only is it a lyric from one of his most well-known songs, but the movie really feeds into that mystery.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to get you inside his mind. You can give up on that. It's just this is this incredible 4-year period that changed music and really changed culture as the world, and especially America, was changing for the counterculture. So it's a fascinating look at a movement and a time and a personality, and really, really well done. I think for someone to do a quote-unquote mainstream approach to Dylan's story, I can't imagine it working much better than this. And that is A Complete Unknown, in at number 6. Into the top 5 now. Another big swing. Reclusive gym manager Lou falls hard for Jackie, an ambitious bodybuilder headed through town to Vegas in pursuit of her dream. But their love ignites violence, pulling them deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. In Love Lies Bleeding.
The excitement in the air is palpable. The atmosphere is electric. A celebration of history in the making.
What is this place? You're looking pretty good in there. There's some pretty serious lines going. Yeah? Why don't you want me working for your dad? Well, he's a psycho. Saw that big girl.
That you two are maybe together.
Do you like guns?
I prefer to know my own strength.
That's not what I'm paying you for.
If you touch her,
gonna tell them everything you ever did.
Are you threatening me?
We gotta get out of here.
Let's just keep driving.
I fucking love you, you idiot. I love you too.
You'll regret this.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, fuck.
Rose Glass.
Rose Glass.
Oh, man. She made a movie a couple of years ago called Saint Maud that we loved so much. A horror film. It's a brilliant movie, and it's incredibly well executed, and it leads to this utterly insane crescendo. If you saw that movie and you're familiar with it, then the final act of Love Lies Bleeding might not seem quite so, what am I watching right now?
Right.
But I do think there are hints throughout the movie to let you know what's coming. But like you said, big swing. It's a big swing.
Big swing. And it really worked. It really worked for us. And it's led by some great performances. Kristen Stewart, who's we've said many times, if you still just think of Kristen Stewart and think of Twilight, you've missed many good performances.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Just like
Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
They have both gone on to really, really great performances in some really smart roles.
Yeah, agreed.
And this is one here, and she's paired up with Jackie. Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie is the character name. Katie O'Brien.
Yeah.
Yeah, another great performance.
Yeah, I mean, a real breakout performance.
Very, very much of a breakout
and they fall in love with each other, and it's such the way Rose Glass reworks sort of erotic thriller tropes and gender norms and what you're expecting. I mean, she just bounces back and forth in the way that you're expecting people to behave.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fascinating. And then in the middle of this, it's a crime thriller.
Yeah.
And man, Ed Harris with the best skullet I've ever seen, but he's so good.
It's a tremendous skullet. Yeah. Ed Harris plays Lou, Kristen Stewart's father.
Yep.
And they're not exactly, they don't have a loving relationship.
No.
And Lou Sr. is into some bad stuff.
Is.
And Jackie gets roped into that, and then Jackie does some things. We don't want to give anything away, but yeah, it becomes quite the crime thriller.
Yeah.
With a bit of the I don't want to say supernatural.
No, but they're surreal, maybe.
Surreal. That's a better word.
Yeah.
Surreal. Yeah, and if you're not ready for that, this could be polarizing.
Yeah, it could be.
You could be like, well, I'm out of it now.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite moments is like the very last scene in the entire movie is the first just flat out comedic moment in the entire film, and it's just so nutty. But it was so well placed. Yeah. I'm so excited about this filmmaker.
Yeah, me too. And it's one that is you're seeing potential realized.
Yes.
Because this is not a horror movie like Saint Maud was, but Saint Maud was so confidently put together.
Yeah.
in the vision, and one of my favorite endings in
oh my God,
years.
yes.
But you're right. If you've seen Saint Maud and know that ending, then it does give you a little bit of a hint of the things that might be showing up in this movie,
Yeah.
just not horror related.
Yeah.
But top 5 for the year, a great one. Love Lies Bleeding in at number 5. At number 4, one of 2 movies this year from one of our favorite directors, Luca Guadagnino is back with a former tennis prodigy turned coach, transforming her husband into a champion. But to overcome a recent losing streak and redeem herself, the husband will need to face off against his former best friend and his wife's ex-boyfriend in Challengers.
What are you gonna do now?
Unfortunately, my only skill in life is hitting a ball with a racket.
I want you to be my coach. I want you to be my coach.
How often does this happen? Going after the same girl? Come here.
Which one of us? This is a game about winning the points that matter. I don't need to play mind games with you. Come have a cigarette with me. I have to talk to you.
I don't smoke, and I'm not talking to you.
He's not in love with you.
What makes you think I want someone to be in love with me?
Hey, I love you.
I know.
This was from the first half of the year, and
Yeah.
I the whole time I just kept it on my list because it was so impressive. I'd have to look back at our half of the year list, but I think this was my number one from
Yeah.
the first half of the year. Just fascinating the way it's written. These are great characters. They're not likable, but we love that. The triangle, the way it's shot by Luca Guadagnino to really mirror the tennis themes. The tennis is good.
Yeah.
The performances are great. It's one that just kept me riveted because of the play between these three characters and the actors. Zendaya is fantastic, and I can't imagine what she thought of when she read this script, because if I was an actor in her position, I would just be, oh my God, this is such a great character.
Yes.
I've got to play it.
Yes.
And she really does a good job. And then the two men in the triangle, Mike Feist.
Yeah, Columbus's own.
Columbus native here where we are, and Josh O'Connor. And they are both great as well. And just the interplay between these two, because one is the bad boy and one is the good guy. And Zendaya just plays them both, and it leads to another great ending.
Yeah.
It's a great final shot that I heard a lot of people and saw their posts on social media. Some, they don't like it. They don't understand it. I thought it was great.
Yes.
And the way that Luca Guadagnino films this, it's so different than anything he's ever done, and it follows the tennis theme. I don't know whether he's a big tennis fan or not, but he didn't write this. This was written by Justin Kurixis, hope I pronounced that, who also wrote Queer, Luca Guadagnino's other film this year. It's a fascinating script, great characters, fully realized, and I just thought just a tremendous triangle that's one that just keeps you hanging. And it's funny, I don't want to give anything away, but a lot of people have probably seen the trailer from when the three of them are sitting on the bed there, and you think, oh, something's going to happen. That's such a tease. I mean, it's very sexual, it's sensual, but yet don't expect, a bunch of
an orgy.
Yeah, but it finds its way to be sensual without being overly sexual. And there's a lot of torsos and sweat because they're playing tennis, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of implied sexuality. So it's just fascinating the way it's done. It's really, really played very, very well for a psychological drama and a romance. It has bits of humor in it as well. So really well done, and certainly a great win for Luca Guadagnino. Always like to see what he's doing.
Yes.
And we didn't like his other film Queer, which came out just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Didn't like that quite as much.
No.
But still.
Yeah, very
always
solid.
Yes, always like to see what he's doing. And that is number 4 on our list this year, Challengers. Into the top 3 now, and at number 3, a drama. Divine G, imprisoned at Sing Sing for a crime he didn't commit, finds purpose by acting in a theater group alongside other incarcerated men in a story of resilience, humanity, and the transformative power of art. It's Sing Sing.
We here to become human again and enjoy the things that is not in our reality.
I think you guys are becoming real with each other, vulnerable.
Listen, I already know what you're doing, know who you are, what you about, bro. What? You don't get to tell me what I need in prison. You don't get to do that. And don't bring me in those dark corners no more.
The world expects brothers like you and I to walk in with our heads held down. Nah, what you gotta walk in like a king. Everything is yours.
I'm divine now.
Yeah.
This is my theater.
Now give him some love, give him some love.
Go to your most perfect spot.
You gotta admit that I murdered that Hamlet, bro. Shakespeare is in his grave right now. He rolled over.
You did your thing, beloved.
This movie reminded me of Moonlight, just in the way that there are some films every now and then that you watch them, and then I think, you know what? I'm a better person for having seen that movie. And this is a type of movie like that.
Yeah.
It's so powerful that you need some just moments of silence
You
when it's
do.
over.
You
Just
really
to sit
do.
and contemplate it.
Yeah. I want Coleman Domingo to win Best Actor so much.
He's so great.
I mean, he's great in everything. He really is. But oh my God, he's so magnificent in this movie.
Yeah.
But he's not alone. And one of the things that is so great about this movie, it's this huge ensemble. And most of them are not actors. Most of them are either currently or have been incarcerated at Sing Sing.
Yeah.
And you know, I've seen a lot of movies where they have non-actors and you think to yourself, oh, good job. That's not what you think here. I mean, it's transformative.
Yeah, he's led that is led by Clarence Macklin, who has the biggest supporting role.
Oh, he's so great.
His first movie ever. He was a part of this program at Sing Sing, as you just mentioned. Some of the cast members have been a part of this. It was inspired by an article about this program, this theater program at Sing Sing. And yeah, Clarence Macklin he's incredible because he plays a character that comes in violent, very guarded,
he's so
and
good.
finds a way throughout this program with the mentorship of John Divine G, played by Coleman Domingo, to finally let his guard down and find a piece of his humanity that had been lost.
Yeah.
And at the same time, both of them are working on their appeals for clemency. And it's so touching. It's so touching. It speaks to art. It speaks to hope and perseverance. And it just speaks to the nature of humanity.
Yeah. And it's unlike anything else you're going to see.
It really is. It's unlike anything. And it's so authentic because it's authentic.
But at the same time, I mean, it's as a film, it's quite gripping.
Yeah.
You know, and and it's funny at times, and you really root for these guys as they're going to put on this performance. I mean, it's one of those, let's put on a show movies that are always so much fun to watch. And at the same time, the stakes are so much higher here. Yeah, it's just a magnificent piece of film.
Yes, and we should also say one of the actual actors in the cast, Paul Raci, plays the organizer, the director of the theater group inside Sing Sing. And of course, he was Oscar nominated for Sound of Metal.
Yes.
And really, really great in this. And also Coleman Domingo's longtime artistic partner, Sean San Jose, also very good. But it's another one of those fantastic ensembles and just will touch your soul.
It will.
Just your very soul.
Go see it.
And it is number 3 on our list, and that is Sing Sing. Up to number 2, and this is the story of a young sex worker from Brooklyn meeting and impulsively marrying the son of an oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as his parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled in Honora.
Are you happy?
Very happy.
Ivan, your parents are gonna kill you.
I love my husband.
You do not know this guy.
We are consenting adults.
If you think this is gonna be allowed, you're dead wrong.
Do not touch me.
You like Cinderella.
Yes, Cinderella.
We are married. They're gonna have to accept that. Doesn't matter about anything, okay?
This is from writer-director Sean Baker. We love everything he does. We'll see everything he does. I remember when you saw Tangerine, which you saw before I did. You reviewed it. It was a movie that he very famously made on his phone.
Yep.
And it's a Christmas movie too, by the way, anybody listening?
It is, that's right.
It's such a great movie, and everything he's done since then, he just likes to spend time with people you normally do not see in films.
Florida Project was another one of his.
Yeah.
And since then, he's not shooting movies on his phone anymore. No. And he's certainly not shooting this one on his phone. And this is another great ensemble led by a great performance, Mikey Madison.
Oh, she's so good.
As Honora or Annie. And she impulsively marries this son of an oligarch. And he is played by Mark Eldashian. And I know I butchered that. Also great.
So good.
He's
and
got
that's
so much money.
It's such a hard character because But this is one of the great things about this movie. So you are sort of prone to dislike this kid. And it's not as if he's likable. He's spoiled. He's manic. He wants to marry her eventually because, well, I mean, why not, right? He's just completely irresponsible. Also, maybe he'll never have to get a job now. You know, he's just so, but somehow the performance makes you kind of like this kid. But then what's amazing is that the movie turns in its third act into kidnapping, hostage crime situation that is sort of also a slapstick comedy and manages to toe both of those lines brilliantly. The whole cast is so great, but I think it's the empathy that the film has for every character. Characters that in another film you'd never feel empathy for, and you do in this one.
Yeah, and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Doesn't drag.
No, not
like
1 minute.
Said, it becomes into this kidnapping thing, and then it's a manhunt is going on. And it's R, and it's a hard R.
Oh, it's a hard R, yes.
There's some...
don't take your kids.
Do not. But, man, yeah, the ride that it takes you on and the type of people that it focuses on, which is something, if you know Sean Baker's work, that he likes to do. Oh, we're forgetting Red Rocket.
That's right.
It's usually some type of sex work.
Always.
Is what...
so far.
What he's interested in, yeah.
And also, he inverts these Disney princess tropes. He obviously did in the Florida Project, but he very much does here, and he does it so seamlessly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a writer and director, and he keeps stepping up every time. And this is one that was just it's a whirlwind.
Yeah,
not only a whirlwind with this romance when they meet and eventually get married. That is a whirlwind, and then it goes off on a different direction, and it's also funny.
Yeah,
but
it is.
It's tense.
Yes.
And when they come, because the oligarchs, the parents, they send their henchmen. To come looking for both of them. It's just fascinating. It's one where you just keep staring at it. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And it's a great time at the movies. It's just a great time at the movies, and that is why it's number 2 on our list for 2024. Anora. That takes us up to the top. There can be only one. And our number 1 is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. It's Nosferatu.
There is a devil in this world, and I have met him.
But you could never please me as he could. I'm ready.
Some years we know right off this is going to be our number 1 movie. Some years we know 6 months out this is going to be our number 1. It was tough this year.
It was tough.
It was tough this year.
But this was another one that we were really looking forward to. Sort of like I was looking forward to Complete Unknown, cautiously optimistic. I think we were more than cautiously optimistic.
Because it was Robert Eggers.
Because it was Robert Eggers, yeah. And we know what he can do from The Witch and from The Lighthouse and The Northman. And we pretty much knew, as anybody that's familiar with his work would, how he was going to approach this. And man, talk about a vision, talk about a realized vision, and confident, committed vision to this story, this classic story of what is essentially, like you've said before, Dracula.
Right.
But it goes back to the 1922 version of Nosferatu, which was only about barely an hour and a half long.
Mm-hmm.
This one is 2 hours and 15 minutes, but another case of fleshing out the narrative, pumping it up. And a lot of that is done here through the relationship of the Hutters instead of the Harkers. Thomas Hutter, Nicholas Hoult, and Ellen Hutter, Lily Rose Depp. And really, in many ways, this is Lily Rose Depp's movie. This is Ellen's story. And it's very female-centric. That probably shouldn't surprise you if you've seen The Witch and what Robert Eggers did with the hysteria, the Puritan hysteria around female sexuality. A lot of that carries over to this movie as well, and that's a lot of the pumping up of the narrative. I think the relationship between the Hutters. Early on their romance, they feel like more fully formed characters, and then when Thomas Hutter has to go away on his trip to see the Count, and then the calling and the dreams and all that, and you really see Ellen Hunter's hysterics and her demonic possession, so to speak, and it's fascinating, and two really, really solid performances by both Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp, because it really is in many ways her movie, and that's what really helps it feel heavier from a narrative standpoint.
It does. And it's interesting, the original Nosferatu was an attempt to tell Dracula without getting caught in copyright infringement. And one of the fascinating things about what Eggers does is that he veers further still away from the Dracula source material, and he fleshes out backstories for characters, that you're used to these characters. They're in all of the different versions of Dracula, but in this one, their stories are different. Yeah. Their backstories are different. Their relationships are different. And it's fascinating in that way, the new tale that he tells.
Yeah, and it looks gorgeous.
It does.
Can't recommend enough not waiting for this to stream.
Oh, yeah.
See it on the big screen. See it in IMAX. It was filmed in IMAX in gorgeous black and white. The light and shadow, the depth, incredible. Just incredible. And it's got another great ensemble.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult plays the Harker character, familiar with the Dracula story, here named Thomas Hutter. Lily Rose Depp is his wife. And then Bill Skarsgård, who you may remember as Pennywise, he's had many other parts. He plays Count Orlok, and you do not see him in full.
Right.
You hear him. You see bits of him, his hand. You don't see him in full for a full 45 minutes, and you also don't see him in the trailers, and there's a reason for that.
There is. So the original Murnau's Orlok was the bald vampire with the tall, skinny ears and the rabbit front teeth, and that's kind of spawned its own type of vampire. And of course, Dracula was usually this very sort of seductive, handsome, aristocratic vampire. What Eggers does with Orlok is he looks utterly different than any other vampire you've seen before in a fascinating way that seems appropriate to the origin story that they're telling us. It's creepy. It's weird. I loved it.
Yeah, it might take you a few minutes to get used to, especially the voice, I think, more than the look, because you hear the voice early on, and it takes you a little time to get used to his phrasing and the pitch of his voice, but you do get used to it eventually. And then when you see him, it's totally different. And also, Willem Dafoe.
Oh, yeah.
Is a great part in this.
He plays what is essentially Van Helsing. But I love to point out that in the 2000 film Shadow of the Vampire, he played Count Orlok. He played Max Schreck, the actor who's playing Count Orlok in a behind-the-scenes horror comedy of the filming of the original Nosferatu. And so I find that hilarious. And also randomly, Nicholas Hoult played Renfield in Renfield last year. So
exactly.
There's Dracula all over the place here.
Nicholas Hoult, boy, what a great year he's had.
He's having a hell of a year.
Man.
And he's great in this movie.
He's really good. He's also very good in Juror Number 2. And this one is much better as far as the cast goes. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson will look back on this one a little more fondly, at least how it was received than Kraven the Hunter, which was a huge bomb. But he's good in this. The entire ensemble. Also, if you've seen The Witch from Robert Eggers, you will recognize Ralph Ineson.
Yeah,
Ineson. He is in this as well. And the Renfield character here named Knock is played by a longtime that guy, Simon McBurney.
Oh yeah, you'll know his face, and I love what they do with that character. Renfield is one of the most fun characters, and no matter what the version is, and what they do with him here, I keep saying it's just meatier.
Yeah,
it's just more sort of primal and weird and villainous.
Yeah. And I think if you're familiar, if you're a horror fan and you're familiar with not only the original from 22, but if you're familiar with Werner Herzog's take from 1979, you might see, as we did, a sort of a combination of the two
for sure.
In this. And it really works. And also, we'll give a tip of the hat, as Robert Eggers has done, to SpongeBob.
That's right, because SpongeBob. Yeah, when Robert Eggers made The Witch, he wanted to make Nosferatu next and couldn't. Nobody wants to see that movie. Nobody knows who that is. But in the interim, 10 or 12 years or whatever, SpongeBob SquarePants reintroduced the world because there's a Count Orlok character in a couple of his episodes, and so now
whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I've seen those episodes. They're great.
They are great. Whatever it takes to bring this to us. And this is it's the epitome of gothic beauty.
Oh,
I think.
yeah,
I'm telling
absolutely.
You got to see it on the big screen. See it on the big screen. See it in IMAX.
Mhm.
Incredible. And it is our number one of the year, and a good year, a varied year.
Yeah.
I agree with you. There wasn't really one that we had pegged at number one from 6 months ago.
Right,
this
right.
took some debate. There's a
did.
few of these that could easily have been number one, and so many from below the top 10 that could have been in the top 10.
Yes.
Hard
Yeah.
to hash
Yeah.
this out. So a good year, an entertaining year, and makes us hopeful that we can have another year next year just like it, or maybe even better, but who knows. But for now, we're talking about 2024. What do you think? What we get wrong? What we get right? What did we leave out completely? Let us know. We always like to keep the conversation going. You can find us easily on all the socials. You can find us at Mad Wolf Columbus, and of course the main website, madwolf.com, MADDWOLF. And as we said, this podcast now available also on YouTube.
That's
so
right.
we love when people find us there. So however you keep in touch, just keep in touch. Enjoy the movies. Hope you have a fantastic new year as we look forward to the year in movies 2025. How did that happen? 2025. I think we're already getting people's hopes up. I think everybody's excited about that Superman trailer that we've just seen. That got a lot of, anything that gets people back to the movies and excited.
Yeah.
We're all about that. And 28 years later,
Yeah.
we're excited for that. So
yes, indeed.
there's lots to be excited about for next year and lots to be thankful for this year. So until next year, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
Happy holidays.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Merry New Year!